Who am I and why am I here? Well, I'm here today to toot my own horn. And as much as I like to joke, I do not like to talk about myself all that much. I have a friend who suggested that I tell you, the YouTube channel, a little bit about myself to show my credentials. How am I qualified? Everyone and their dog has a YouTube channel, and and if they've ever sold on eBay, they think they're an expert. What is it about me that makes me feel as if I'm qualified to waste your time or to use your time in a valuable way? Who am I to do that? I think that my friend is right. I think you should understand that you can trust me, that I know what I'm talking about. Like Sledgehammer said, trust me, I know what I'm doing. But I really do when it comes to eBay. And I'm just taking one video to show you my credentials. I'm going to tell you not just why you should listen to me, and that means I'm showing you that I'm qualified to tell you some ultra advanced things about eBay. Actually, a lot of ultra advanced things about eBay. But I also want to tell you why it's critical to you to know this about me. How does it benefit you to know this about me? And what should you do if I didn't show you my credentials? So I'm going to get to that here really fast. It's just first, I've been a trainer. I have taught eBay courses, seminars all over the country for years now, years and years and years. And this is me at second to the last conference where I taught presentation. And at each of these presentations, I've given ultra advanced information, and all of that is going to eventually end up on this channel. You're going to be glad that it did. You're going to be glad you found this channel. So I'm showing you, just by showing you, that I do this for a living, not just on YouTube, not just on our Facebook channel, the Ultra Advanced eBay Guide on the Facebook channel that all of you should join. It's free. There's no membership fees or anything on any of this. And I not only teach people in person at conferences, but I also do it on Facebook and also you. The interaction on Facebook, you can ask anything you want anytime of me. I don't care if it's advanced or not. It can be anything, and I'll answer the question. Down below, here on YouTube, I'm checking YouTube a lot, so this might be the fastest way to get a response, but I also, in our Facebook group, any question you have, ask the group or ask me in a private message, whatever you want to do. So I'm demonstrating that I'm qualified to teach you because I teach groups, conferences across the nation. Secondly, I've been on eBay now for 25 years, literally, and my first account, which I call my personal account, I still sell a lot on there, but I have other selling accounts for a variety of reasons. And just to answer your questions ahead of time, I don't suggest you have multiple selling accounts. I do for a couple of very unique circumstances. But this is the account that I've had from the beginning. It was called something else, and I might change the name again someday. But 100%, not just in the last 12 months, I have over 10,000 feedbacks in my personal account that I've done a lot of buying and selling over the years. It's not my only selling account, and 100% feedback, and I've been doing this for exactly 25 years. It's May, so I just hit my 25th anniversary on eBay last month, April of 2024. I got on here, first sale, I remember it well. It was actually something that I shouldn't have sold as a first-time seller because I had no feedback. I had no way to demonstrate trust, and yet my buyer bought it. I can't believe they bought it. I'll tell you about that some other time. If nothing else, I've been around a long time. If I have 10,739 feedbacks, and I do, that means I have 30-something thousand sales just on this account alone. Because you only get about 1 out of 3 feedback. 1 out of 3 people that buy something from you, they'll in general leave you a feedback. So I have probably about 30,000 sales total. Who did all those sales? I did. Me, myself, and I. Now my wife is part of the family. My wife is part of the family. She's part of the business, but the reality is she helps me whenever I need it. But I pretty much do it all on my own. As a matter of fact, she's outsourcing right now. But in general, over the years, vast majority, I've sourced everything, I've listed everything, I've photographed everything, I've wrapped everything, I've shipped everything. She's been doing a bang-up job with shipping for years now, but I also pretty much do that too. And so it's a one-man band, and I'm so grateful that it's not literally because I've got her help, and I really do. But I just am trying to demonstrate, if I have 30,000 sales behind me, and I pretty much did all of that myself, at least when it comes to listing pictures, most of the pictures, all of that, that means I have some knowledge in my background as to what works on eBay. That's what I'm trying to demonstrate. I'm not trying to show off. I'm not trying to say I work harder than my wife, because I don't. I'm just saying that my hand was in every single one of those 30,000 or so sales, and you learn something after 25 years and over 30,000 sales in one account. I've got other accounts, I don't know how many sales I've done in those. I also was back in 2006, maybe, I was trained by eBay to be one of their education specialists. This was back in the old days. I mean, 2005, 2006, that's a long time ago when it comes to any website. And I was an education specialist trained by eBay. So I was qualified and approved by eBay to sell my training services to others. I soon after that started writing, got a syndicated newspaper column about eBay. It was called The eBay Guy. And every week my column would appear, half a page columns. I didn't save one. I saved all of my documents, my Word documents. I didn't save any of the newspaper articles. That was really dumb. I didn't scan one of them. You just have to trust me that I was in a newspaper every single week. My column was out there that people read. I've written several books on eBay. That's no big deal. I've written several books in my life, about 150 total. 85 or so were for major publishers, McGraw-Hill, and all of those. I used to also teach classes on how to write books, how to publish books, and all of that. Why should you listen to me when it comes to what do I do to get a book published? Because I have 85 books published by major publishers, translated into languages all over the world. I've been to China and seen my books. I can't read them, but it was there in books. They were there in bookstores. My books have been everywhere. In the year 1999, I had the #1 and the #2 best-selling books on earth about computers. I had the #1 Microsoft Office book and the #1 Microsoft Windows book, back when Windows 2000 was just coming out. I think that was the version. I don't remember exactly. #1, #2 books on computer technology on earth. Should you listen to me? I know a little bit about technology. I know a little bit about how to deal with computers. I know a little bit about eBay. I also was one of the first eBay power sellers. If you've not been on eBay except for the last few years, you may not even have ever heard of the term power seller. They don't have this anymore, but used to it was a big deal to get power. It was harder to get than top-rated seller. You became a power seller, that meant that you got some perks, just like top-rated seller does today. But they eventually phased that out. But this was one of the earliest one, and I was one of the earliest earliest power sellers. And I also, therefore, became, whenever they transferred power sellers over to their new top-rated seller program, I was one of the earliest top-rated sellers on eBay. Even back whenever they gave certificates for that. They don't do that anymore. You don't get anything. Well, you get a pretty good deal. You get 10% off your selling fees. You get a little bit better search engine love. It's really worth becoming a top-rated seller, and it's really not that hard to become one. We'll talk about it on this channel. I've just demonstrated that you should listen to me whenever I say that I can teach you how to improve your eBay skills. I can. There's going to be a lot of training on this channel and in the Facebook group, the Ultra Advanced eBay Guy. How do you and I live well? We put it, when it comes to business, we do the best we can in business. We treat people right. We're honest. We're honest to our buyers. We're honest to everyone that we come in contact with. If you notice that there's a problem with one of your sales, you fix that problem without even telling your buyer you fixed it, however that happens. We'll talk about that whenever we get to that sort of thing, whenever it comes to buyer customer service. That's how you do well, is you put one foot in front of the other. you list at least one item every day, and I hope you list a lot more than one, but you have to list at least one item every day. That means every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Or if you want to be like me, 12 days a week and 412 days a year. However I do that. I list every day, rain or shine, it doesn't matter. I'm sick, doesn't matter. Now, I will batch up some in a queue and draft. I'll save some drafts just in case there's a problem. All I have to do is just click a button and list that days or the next 3 or 4 days. If I'm on vacation, I list every single day. I will create listings ahead of time and they will list every single day. I do not miss listing on eBay because that skyrockets you in the search engine. So how do you become like me if you ever want to? You put one foot in front of the other and you do the work. And you do what I tell you in this group. If you want to outsell all of your competition who's trying to sell the same items against you, that's what you do. Finally, I want to leave you with eBay recently did an article about me on one of their online sites. Maybe I'll link to that, maybe I won't. But they also did an eBay for Business podcast on me. And I'm going to put that at the end of this video so you can, it's very short. You can listen to the podcast, about 10 minutes, interviewing me about how I'm successful on eBay. And I think you're going to be surprised. It's not just more of me tooting my own horn, as I say. I'm not bragging or anything in that. It's all about how in the world, Greg, of all people, how are you successful? You should be the last person on earth to be successful at eBay. Yeah, no one's ever told me that. Therefore, I didn't know that. And therefore, I'm highly successful at eBay, at teaching others how to do eBay. And I think you should listen to this because I've been told it's encouraging for people. Whenever they're having a bad day, they think, oh, look at that guy. I'm so much better off than that guy. And they're really not. I am so blessed in life. Life is so grand. I love waking up every single day. But I can understand why people sometimes react to that when they hear the interview that eBay for Business podcast did about me. And so I'm going to link to it. And Sweet Lady is talking to me here and asking the questions. And you'll just see more reason. Finally, why does this matter to you? If you want to learn how to be better at something, writing books or selling on eBay, you should only listen to people who are successful at that and who have done a lot of it. That's why you should listen to me. That's why it matters to you. You should listen to me because I'm obviously qualified. But it matters to you because you shouldn't listen to anyone who's not qualified. Why would you waste your time? Most people trying to teach eBay on YouTube, they don't know more than you. They know less than you, especially if you've listened to a few of the videos. And this is a new channel. If you already listened to 10 of our videos so far, you're way ahead of most people who try to teach eBay on YouTube. This is why it matters to you. If I weren't so qualified, you shouldn't listen to anybody who has the audacity of calling his channel the Ultra Advanced eBay Guy if he doesn't have any proof that he's ultra advanced. But I am, and I do. So here's the interview that eBay did with me. And again, it will surprise you and it could encourage you. I hope so.
Every seller has a story. I'm Georgia Mampandis, and welcome to our newest episode of the eBay Seller Spotlight podcast, where each month we spotlight sellers with a story to share with us. Our guest this episode was born with 1 leg and 3 fingers, but even with a disability, he was able to create a successful business on eBay. Welcome, Greg Perry.
Well, thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here. I'm happier than a bird with a French fry.
Oh, and they're happy. So that's great. That's great news. Greg, let's just jump right in. Tell us about yourself. What do you sell?
First of all, I love selling on eBay. And I know there are advantages, disadvantages, but I'm an everything seller. And my goal is whenever anyone goes to eBay looking for something, I want to have something just like it or close to it. I want to be in that search. And I find that for my business model, an everything seller works great for me. And it's a lot more enjoyable than just selling the same old thing over and over.
What are one of these top items that you searched and you sell on your platform and does really well?
Well, right now I'm having incredible luck selling these special baskets called Longa Burger baskets. They were made in Dresden, Ohio for about 20 years. Real beautiful baskets. And I'm finding them in a lot of locations. And as long as you price them fairly, they will sell very quickly. People don't try to get the price down to $1. People will pay a fair price and they really want them and they turn quickly.
So when did you start selling, Greg? You're an expert, so you must have some experience.
I started selling in 1999 on eBay, so I've been about 24 years. The statute of limitations run out. I'm considered an eBayer myself. And back, in the old days of send the checks and hope it comes and all of that stuff, I just fell in love with eBay. I was always kind of a salesy kind of guy growing up because my father was a salesman. And even when I was about 5, I started going door to door selling things to the housewives in my neighborhood. Back then there were housewives everywhere in the homes. And I just knock on their door and sell combs or things like that. And so I've sort of had the selling bug in me forever.
When we spoke not too long ago, you did say something about your publishing business. So tell me a little bit more about what you were doing before you started selling.
I've been an author most of my career since the early 1990s. And most of my books, the majority of the books that I wrote for major publishers, I wrote about 85 books for McGraw-Hill and those types of big publishers. The first 85 books or so were on computer technology, programming languages, MS-DOS back then, Microsoft Windows as it started growing, Microsoft Office, things like that. I've been totally a Windows guy, a Microsoft guy, so I haven't written anything, like Mac specific, but I own some rental properties. I really like the rental property business, rent houses, single family homes and things like that. And I wrote a couple or 3 books on that as well. But in about early 2000s, I started my own publishing business because all of a sudden it's technically feasible to do that. And I started ghostwriting for other people, selling my own books myself, and just find that was more lucrative. And so I've written about 65 or 70 books since then. About 150 books total. And Georgia, I'm tired of writing books. All I want to do is sell on eBay full time. So that's what I'm doing.
You have a disability. You're born with few less fingers. I knew you were able to type a certain amount. How are you able to publish books and write books?
No one ever told me I couldn't. And so I just did it. When I was about 7 years old, my parents bought me a typewriter for Christmas. Now, honestly, I'm not real politically correct when it comes to things like that. I think people would think that would harm my self-esteem. But what it did is I taught myself how to type. And even though I've got 3 stubby fingers, I can type about 40, 45 words a minute, which is not secretary speed, but it got me through 150 books. 7 million words published in book form. And we're talking large, real books, 200, 300, 400-page books. When it comes to typing on eBay, I don't really think too much about it. I can whip out a description and a condition and title in no time. So that really hasn't been a problem. Honestly, my parents are the whole reason. They didn't treat me like I was a handicapped child. I really prefer the term handicapped over disability because, say, a smoke alarm, when it's disabled, it doesn't work. I work. Now, for instance, when I was about 3 or 4, my dad bought me a baseball bat and a baseball and a baseball glove because I loved baseball on TV, and he used to take me to games. And he took me outside, put the glove on my hand. He said, hang on. And he threw me the ball, and I caught it in the glove. And he said, toss it back. And I tossed it back to him. And then a little bit later, I picked up the bat and I hit the ball. My father would have been the first to help me out and rig up a strap or something if I needed it, but he just assumed, we'll see what happens. And I have since learned that I can't do everything. And for instance, I can't play a guitar. And all of a sudden, I started learning, well, some of my friends can't play the guitar either. Everyone's different. Viva la difference, right? I can do a lot of things that keep me very busy. And you have to be joyful in life. You have to be thankful for what you have. This is a wonderful life. Every day is a blessing. It's great to be here.
So it works for you. I love that. It took years of experience. So why did you decide that eBay can cater to this, but working on a regular 9-to-5 couldn't?
Well, I've always been sort of a do-it-yourselfer type of guy. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I was the youngest supervisor in the history of the company at about 26. I hit supervisor position. And right after that, I didn't want to work anymore. I wrote a publisher. My very first publisher happened to be McGraw-Hill. I sent them a letter and I said, I love computers. I am very good at training in computers, other people, and I think I'd be a good author for one of your books. And I didn't even know the editor's name, but that's not how you get a book published. And I got a phone call within about 3 days saying, we really need some books written. Can you do this, this, and this? I said, oh, yes, yes, yes. I just went full-time into writing full-time because no one ever told me I couldn't write. I don't do very many things well, Georgia, just because, I don't know, but I do eBay very well and I write pretty well. So that's been my calling. You have to find what you're good at. If you can't do something, find what you're good at.
Listing you kind of mastered. Are you physically going to get their items? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, I understand. I was born with one leg. It depends on how I'm doing at the time. I most often have an artificial leg that I walk around on. Most of the time, no one has a clue that I was born with one leg. I wish people didn't know I was born with 3 fingers, but it's kind of hard to hide that. And so just walking around, I jog, I run, I ride bikes, I do all of that. Sometimes I have problems and I've been in a wheelchair several times in my life. I've been on crutches a lot in my life. If I were having to source in a wheelchair, well, most places, you can get into now. And so that's really not a big problem. I think what I would probably do is maybe hire some local friend's teenage son or daughter and take a cell phone and say, you go to the garage sales and take pictures of things if I happen to not be able to get out that day. See, there's no limits with technology these days. And she could just point the camera at different things and I could be here sourcing online, say, yes, how much is that? Yes, buy that. You can be bedridden and still source on eBay.
You can. It's very true. You've been on the platform for so long. So what's next for your eBay business?
I've been full-time now for a while. I was part-time for about 20-something years. I am doing a lot of teaching. I have a Facebook group, subscription Facebook group. I'm not trying to push that, but I'm teaching others. I actually am a pretty advanced eBayer, and I know a lot of things. But my next thing is I'm going to grow it. I'm now full-time. I don't see why I can't quadruple my business within the next 2 or couple of years or so. I think that as the economy starts getting probably a little bit worse and worse, I think people will want secondhand items more and more. I see a lot of positivity for eBay in the future.
So tell me, for anyone who's had disability or in your case, handicap, what word of advice would you give them for starting an eBay business?
Number one, you should have started yesterday. So my word of advice is just start. You're going to find out pretty quickly what you can and can't do, what you might need some help with, what you might think you need help with, and it turns out you don't. I do everything now. Sometimes my wife will help me for sure, but often she's not here. So I'll do all the sourcing, all the wrapping, all the listing, all the photography. And anyone looking at me, especially if I'm having issues with my leg and I'm on crutches with only one leg on at the time, they're going to think, well, there's no way he can do this. And I don't know. I never thought about that. I never thought I couldn't. I think we limit ourselves. And I would say, don't do that. You have gifts, you have abilities, and you can take advantage of them in a positive way. And if you have to, get a local friend or an uncle's, get a cousin to come and help you out. They'll help you for a while, then start paying the money because they will be able to really grow your business with you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I actually don't have advice for eBay because if you were to ask me, what can eBay do to help you? My answer would be eBay should do what eBay does best. Be the best platform for buyers and sellers to come together. And then let us worry about the details of how that happens. In today's Windows and Mac environments, everything is possible on a computer. You don't have to you can be visually impaired. You can be hearing impaired. It doesn't matter. You can even be a world-class physicist, and all you can do is blow through a straw. Literally. I mean, seriously, you can do anything. If he can do it, you can do it. That's kind of my attitude.
This is going to be instilled in my brain for the rest of my life, this conversation right here. Anytime I have doubts about myself, I'm like, no, Greg told me I can do it, so I can do it. Just to confirm, you do everything on your laptop, so you barely use your cell phone?
Oh, I strongly advise listing on a laptop or a desktop. And maybe it's just because of me, but I don't think it's just me. I think you can too easily make little mistakes and choose the wrong item specific, and think you did, and then you didn't. And I think a little cell phone is great to start listings, take pictures on if you like that. I don't even do that. I like to just use my cell phone camera to take my pictures, but I don't like to finish any listing. I want my eBay listings to work as hard as they can to sell my items when I'm sleeping. So I want my pictures to be just right. I want my titles to be just right. I want my item specifics to be just right. I want my condition. I want my buyers, and they do, to get my item and go, wow, this is so much better than we expected. Even some used, maybe even not even in a working radio or something that they bought for parts, and they go, well, this is a lot nicer than I saw the pictures, but this is even better. That's what I want. And I handwrite a note of thank you to every single buyer. And
wow, that's important.
I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. I want to say, nobody handwrites notes anymore. Nobody. We have got Christmas cards from buyers before. It's like, who is that? It seems like maybe it was a buyer. They think that whenever they get a handwritten note, they are special to me. They just gave me money. I tell them, we hope that this Longaberger basket adds value and interest and beauty to your home decor. We appreciate you. Sincerely offered, Janie and Greg. I'll put both of our names because I think it's important to show that it comes from real people. We'll sign it, or I'll sign for both of us. And I think that note, I think it's kept me from getting negative feedback before. I think people, anytime a waitress puts a little happy face on the check, she gets a bigger tip. That's just a science. And I think whenever you handwrite a note to your buyer, and listen, I hate to say this, but I despise writing those notes. It's like they take forever. I've got to do it every day. Oh, such a chore. But I would never do anything else. That's the most time-consuming part of my eBay business, is writing those stinking notes. But I mean every word of them, and I think my buyers know that.
So for any buyer, or even obviously seller, who wants to buy from you and get this handwritten note, can you tell us where listeners can find you in your store online?
Well, I have a couple of selling accounts because I do a lot of consignment for neighbors. Just a little tip. If you have elderly neighbors, they want to get rid of things and they have great stuff that they want you to sell. But anyway, but my primary, I say my personal selling account is the largest one that I have. And it's under the eBay name Okie GP. Because I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm an Okie, O-K-I-E, GP for Greg Perry. So Okie GP is where I am. Okie GP is my name and eBay's my game.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Greg. I had a lovely time.
I did too, and it was my pleasure, Georgia.
We will talk soon. I can't wait to hear what the future holds for you.
Great.
Greg Perry sells on eBay under the store name Okie GP. You can also read our story about Greg on eBay Inc. We hope you'll join us on our next episode where we'll shine the spotlight on another seller with an amazing story to share. I'm your host, Georgia Mampanis. Jim Griffith is our editor-in-chief. The eBay Seller Spotlight podcast is produced by Libsyn and Podcast 411.